Hey, good morning. Well, I don't know what time of day it is for you, but it's early morning here in Tucson, Arizona. My name is Connie Walker. I'm at the National Optical Astronomy Observatory, and with me here today is Maddie.
Hi.
Say hello, and she wants to say who you are.
I work with Connie at the National Optical Astronomy Observatory, and I'm a student at the U of A.
And she's also the star of our great tutorial video for the Quality Lighting Teaching Kit called Light Pollution and Safety. And that's the theme of today's Hangout. We're going to talk about the activity itself, and we're going to ask some questions from our viewer. And we have a guest today, a very, very wonderful guest, Pete Strasser. And Pete is from the International Dark Sky Association. He is the technical director.
Correct. Hello, pleased to be back. If I can offer some salient points to at least help make this better.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he has plenty of pearls of wisdom I'm sure he's going to share with us. And also a guest up with us is Nurali Juwaji. Do you want to say hello?
Hello everyone. Yeah, I'm Nurali Juwaji from Tanzania, the Open University of Tanzania.
Yes, and he's been on before too. And thank you so much for joining us again, Juwaji. And well, so what we're going to do, if it's all right, we're going to go through a little bit of the activity. What I want to say to those who come online, please, and want to ask questions, you have what they call a Q&A app, and you can find that at the upper right-hand side of your screen. You have to click on something that looks like 9 white squares in a 3x3 configuration, and when you do that, you'll see a couple of apps, and one of those should be the Q&A app. If you click on that and you have a Gmail account, you are in like Flynn, as they say. You'll be able to type in any question you'd like to, hopefully on the Quality Lighting Teaching Kit and or the safety activity. And we'll be there to answer it for you, especially our guest of honor can answer most any questions at all on safety. So please feel free to ask. What we'd like to do next, if it's all right with you, is to go over the activity for those of you who have not been able to have a chance to look at the great tutorial video that Maddie was a star of. And she'll go over the activity just in a few minutes time here. And then you'll have some fodder with which to ask some questions. Okay, so would you like to try it? Yeah.
Alright, so we're just gonna go over it pretty briefly because it goes more in depth in the video, which is available online. So the first thing I want to point out is, since we're doing the safety activity, we're gonna pull out our safety box. And that's basically the only supplies you'll need for this besides the safety poster. So the first thing is we're going to go over how to use the luxmeter. So this is what it's going to look like. This is the sensor right here. And stop me if you have any questions while we're going over this. Is he talking? I can't quite hear him.
No, Juwaji's not talking.
Okay, so the first thing I want to point out is where you're going to want to place the luxmeter. You'll want to have it at the point of interest. So if I'm going to measure the lighting here in this room, I'm going to have it where I would be sitting in relation to my computer screen and also the light that's on in the office. So maybe a foot or two away from the computer screen. The second thing is that you're going to want to calibrate it after every measurement you take. So calibrating means you just put the cap back on the sensor and then have the monitor show zeros. So the way we're going to take the measurement is we're going to have everything placed flat on the table, and we're going to take off the cap. Can we show that? We're going to take the cap off of the sensor. And as you can see, the most significant digit is 1. So we're going to hit the button that says range to select a different range until we get, oh, this is so hard to show, until we get a number that's not 1. And as you can see, the numbers are moving. And that's just because I'm moving both the sensor and I'm actually moving too. So the more I move, the more light is, you know, blocked from the sensor. So that's why the number is moving. Other than that, let's see, we'll obviously want to use the power button to turn it on and off. And then also we'll use the lux/FC to toggle between lux and foot candles. But what we're going to use is lux.
So the power just a 1000.
What's that?
Well, sometimes there's when she toggles the range, you'll see down below here. Oops, sorry. You'll see sometimes a times 10 or times 100. So you have to be careful that you have to multiply whatever value is here by that factor.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any questions about how to use it?
I have a question about
Sure.
just this meter itself. Is how low will it go? Tenths of lux, hundreds of lux? What is the minimum?
I think it's about 100 of lux.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. We're done good. This is a $32 meter, sorry, that you can get from a company called Dr. Meter. And we did a number of tests on a variety of meters and found that this is a very good middle of the road. I mean, you could buy more expensive ones and cheaper ones as low as $10 and they will still work pretty well. But it's a really good one for a drop test that we have with the kids at school. It has this nice little orange buffer on it. And so it's survived a lot of drop tests, I guess. That's a factor in designing a kit you have to take into consideration. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that it is useful to point out that the range button that you press automatically selects the range, a suitable range for that lighting, I presume.
Yeah, it does automatically.
Auto ranging.
Yeah, it does have auto ranging.
Yeah, so the mere action of pressing the range will automatically give the best range for that light level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're going to want to do with your students or whoever you're doing the activity with is take the lux meter into a couple of different environments. So what we did, you might be able to see on the whiteboard here, we have the same chart that we had in the video. We took it and took measurements in the main office, a restroom, a library, and outside. And you can take your pick. I mean, you don't have to do those same exact places. We have a lot of different places listed on our lighting levels sheet that is in the kit. And we're gonna pull that up right here.
Oh, good. Okay. I'll do that for you.
And so basically what's on this are values that you can use to compare your measurements just to see where you're at.
So there's recommended indoor and outdoor lighting values here that you can draw from.
So the recommended values are based on what? Some biological or some, because this is a human reaction, I presume, you know?
Yeah, a lot of these are from both IES, NA, and also CIE standards. So they're a little bit mixed, actually. Okay. So there's standard values that are used.
So the standard values are related to how your eyes will react, how much harm or how much difficulty your eyes will get to absorb, to see things comfortably, I presume. You know, I think it's more about comfort level, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I was just talking and asking that question for you to Pete, and we're pretty sure that we're not really sure about the indoor values, to be honest with you, if it's illuminance or luminance that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Here, I'll get off of the stopping presenting. Here we go. And I'll.
Yeah, my understanding when they're doing interior levels is it's illuminance, which is
Perception.
right, and it's an easily measured thing. The luminance being off of a reflected surface, that's going to change with the task, whether you're driving, if you're writing on white paper versus dark paper, those levels will change. So we're talking about the standard emissions that are coming out of the lights, whether it be daylighting through windows or through whatever artificial sources we have measured at the surface where the task is taking place. So that the luminance. As far as what those levels are, those are arbitrary. They're consensus. They're based upon what people feel about how the lighting is done or how the task is done. There's really no way to quantitatively say 19 is better than 20 when it comes to foot candles or light.
Range.
Yeah, it's what we feel, and it's what a group of people around a table say, does this sound reasonable? And then suddenly it becomes a recommended practice and a standard. So it's nothing more complicated than that. No, it could be a very technically designed and implemented statistic. It's not done.
The point is, I mean, it is a subjective. It's a visual feeling of comfort or acceptance of a certain light level for a certain task, I suppose.
Or how efficient you are done with the task. Something though that can alter the number of perception is the nature in which the testing levels are done. It can be done two directions. You can have a bright source and dim it down until the point when you say, I'm no longer comfortable doing this task. Or it can start at 0 and ramp up and then say, oh, I now feel comfortable with this task. And
so these can give different results, I suppose, also.
Very different results, particularly with outdoor lighting. When you're talking about the typical nightscape, it's dark, and then you're approaching a lighted situation. You don't need nearly as much as if it's the reverse, where you're going from a lighted situation to abrupt darkness. You'd have that adaptation time. But
I mean, in biological, the reaction of the iris and how long it takes,
Dobson fatigue and all that stuff that's going on.
And when you go inside a theater or something, when you go inside first, you find it is very dark, and then suddenly now after a certain while, you find it's bright enough.
Yeah. So the nature in which the testing is done can radically change the levels that are assumed appropriate and become part of the standard.
Okay.
So, I mean, the whole point of this activity actually is exactly what we've been talking about. What is the minimal level that you could have a situation lit in various different kinds of environments and still feel safe and comfortable about doing whatever it is you're doing in that environment? And how does that compare with the standards, quote unquote standards, right? Is it more than the standards? Is it less than the standards? Can you, save energy and money if you can survive quite well on doing some, having a lesser level of light in a particular situation? I mean, that's kind of the questions that we're having the students figure out in this particular activity. So, okay.
Yeah, so actually I covered a lot of the rest of what I was going to say. What you're going to do with your students is have them, make a presentation or something to compare what they measured and then what is on the standard lighting levels sheet. So, they can make a PowerPoint or a poster or whatever you guys want. But that's the activity. So.
Well, I also find it interesting that this is not a subject unto itself. It has ties to glare, issues of glare, and we have another activity on that. It has ties to light trespass, and we have another activity on that. So when the teacher has all these students in a room and she divides them into 6 different task groups, basically, and each of those groups has one of these activities from the kit because they're trying to solve a particular issue, those task groups can actually work together and talk to each other and come up with common solutions. And then, when they make the presentations, try to come up with a as I said, a common solution that benefits the entire city in this case, this future city that they're supposedly living in. So, I mean, it's a wonderful situation to get the kids involved in determining their own future in some respect. So, yeah. So anyways, so Jiwaji, you've told me before you're going to be starting this in the fall?
Yeah. I once this day, today my partner didn't come, but I've asked him to start preparing the students and to give them the pre-test, quiz, and then and to orient them that look light, how do you find light, and to just after the quiz to start orienting them sort of, and then to show them the video and not the video, but at least explain what is required, and then we take it. So over the next 2-3 weeks maybe we'll be starting also.
Well, that's exciting. Yeah, let us know how it goes. I'm very interested. So what age group are you working with?
I think it will be about 13, 14 years. So it is, ours is grade 7 actually. So we start a bit late. We start our school, grade 1 started 7 years. So these are grade 6, 7 students who will be participating.
Well, that's pretty cool.
And
So
in another school, we expect maybe 2 years older. So still, I'm looking for a younger group, because last time we selected almost the last years, and then they move out from the school, so we don't have any continuity, and it is useful if they're involved over several rounds also, and they can also encourage their fellow students also to continue to join the school.
that is pretty cool. How are you gonna do this one activity at a time, because there's 6 or 7 students, or are you gonna give them each an activity to do at the same time?
No, we are targeting about maybe 12 students.
Oh.
So we may have a groups of 3 or 4, and then each group will do an activity.
Okay.
So, and then if we are sharing between 2 schools, then one half will do, we will have half of the set, and the other half, then they'll exchange the sets.
Well, I'll tell you, half of them require darkness, and the other half require to be done in the daylight.
Daylight.
That's the way you divide it. I don't know.
That's another, okay. I mean, that's another challenge, that you have to look for a school where students can be around at night, and then the best way to do that is to have a boarding school, a school where students sleep at the school. So.
Oh no, I don't mean they have to be done at night. They have to be done in a dark room.
In a dark room, okay. Yeah, that would be possible. Yeah. No, but for the other activities, there are some night activities also. So it's better to have students who are able to be able to come easily, because these are young children, and the parents, may object if you are to get them back to school at night. So
that's true.
I'm looking for students who are schools which in which the students sleep, so a boarding school sort of.
Wow. Do you have some boarding schools there? Wow.
We still do. That is a very common practice here, because it's very difficult for a student to go back home, and even at home, I think the parents may not be able to give that much attention. They are not able to even the students are not, the parents are not well to do, so they cannot really keep up or with the requirements, lessons, and even lighting itself, they may not even have a sufficient lighting to do their homework and things like that sometimes. So parents prefer, in fact, a lot of them to have their children at a boarding school, especially from grade 4 or 5 onwards. Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. Yeah. Is that just in the bigger cities?
It's more efficient. People have found that. Yeah, for us.
Okay. Well, what kind of kind of advice can you give if you're a teacher, Pete, and you want to
for young
certain salient points across? What would you suggest that the teacher kind of concentrates on?
Well, if they're talking about outdoor lighting and safety, the real important thing is what the nature of the light that's being used and how it's applied. In most cases, a safe situation is one where a motion sensor is used. You generally don't need to have light on all the time. And in fact, a steady state of light doesn't draw attention. And it's really what you want to do is draw attention to somebody around a house, or so somebody's approaching a house, that the light would in fact come on. And if that were the case, then if it's a bad person, a burglar, a perpetrator, and the light suddenly comes on, they generally don't hang around to see if that's just a motion sensor or somebody flipping a switch or somebody seeing what's there. So, and that also, if you have a steady state of light and neighbors are accustomed to seeing light around a house or a school, and if somebody's walking around the house or the school where there's a steady state of light, it doesn't really draw attention. And for all I know, it could be a janitor or somebody else doing maintenance on the building, when it could in fact be somebody doing something bad. So if the situation's changed though, where the light suddenly pops on, everybody's eyes are drawn to that change.
That's a good point.
And when you see that change, that is where both the perpetrator is alarmed and the good people around who are in the proximity would say, this is different, something's going on, and your eyes are drawn over to it. At that point, an assessment is made as something good or bad. But the likelihood of seeing something bad going on is going to be far more impactful if it's done with motion sensing instead of steady state.
Can you speak to these?
Yeah, I will. But
Okay.
a change. I'll be there in just a sec. In many cases, in kind of industrial or situations where municipal buildings had been the area of concern, the previous technology of using high discharge lamps like the low pressure sodium, high pressure sodium, metal halide, they wouldn't turn on fast. You wouldn't have a rapid response to a motion sensor. So the technology was never really applied. It potentially could have been done with halogen or incandescent, but that just wasn't the type of technology that was utilized for things like wall packs and such. With the change of technology now to LEDs, where you have an instant on effect, utilization of motion sensing can now be done on even a commercial level, where it really hadn't been a practicable way of doing it before because the technology simply prohibited it. So if you look in literature that was 2 years old, 3 years old, talking about motion sensors and outdoor safety applications, they scarcely mention it other than residential, because they were really the only places that could utilize motion sensing. That's changed now. We have the LED, so the people developing the standards like the IES and CIE, they need to bring this to their forefront and have some recommended practices that are now utilizing these sorts of products that were suddenly are now available to us. So it's a unique time that we are in the technology, with such a rapid change and a new technology allowing us to approach traditional problems in a far different manner. And that's a really important distinction that needs to be made.
So maybe one good way of starting this activity off with students would be for them to go out and observe the types of technologies that are involved and maybe possible solutions. I don't know if they do that before or after the activity.
Yeah, that would be a good thing too, or a field trip, as it were, is just to kind of study how lighting is in a situation. I don't know. I've done presentations where in a darkened room there had been steady state light on a display, and nobody noticed the guy walking around it. And then on another display, it suddenly popped on when a certain person walked by, and everybody's head in the audience turns and looks, and it's. When you draw attention to that, they go, "My God, I didn't realize this." And this was to a group called CEPTED, Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design, was predominantly police officers and detectives who were in the audience, and they kind of didn't buy to the idea of motion censoring and dark is better than steady state light. And then when I made that demonstration, they all go, "Oh, wow, I really didn't realize how powerful the prompting is to have suddenly a light pop on." And so what condition is safer? Well, it depends what the task is. If you have people constantly walking by a walkway, you have to have a steady state light. That's an appropriate application. But if it's something where it's more security that you're concerned with, the motion sensor, hands down, is the one that's most effective.
I think it can be a deterrent even. I mean, if somebody knows that there is a, that he can be seen, even if the lighting is low or dark, then once somebody walks into a certain area and the lights come on, that become a good deterrent. Somebody will be afraid of coming into near your place.
Sure. Yeah, they've got studies out there that are showing that is dark more secure than bright when it comes to vandalism in schools. And they found that dark was better because the criminals need light to see, and they're gonna if they can't see what they're defacing, they have a flashlight. Well, that kind of obviates the whole point of darkness. And there's actually less vandalism in areas where the lights were out. So it kind of seems intuitive until you actually go through the scenario, and okay, it starts to make sense.
Well, there are, let me see if we get this back up here. There are traditional International Dark Sky Association photos that are shown whenever people present on light pollution and in particular safety. I thought maybe you could speak to these.
There's two important sets of photographs here. The top two are of the same scenario. One is of you're standing, say, on a porch looking out in your yard, and you have a very bright light shining on the area, and it's presumed to be safe. However, what you have is a tremendous amount of glare, and that's obscuring what's actually going on. And the photograph to the right just simply shows the light being blocked, that there is in fact a character standing on the other side of the shadow where it's dark. The presumption is you have a safe situation by having a very bright light there, but the application of the light where it's poorly distributed, glare in your eyes, it's a bad utilization of the light. You could see if the luminaire or the fixture was better designed where it didn't have the glare, would be a far better, more safe situation for the homeowner, and it would actually be better all around. You'd be using less energy, and you'd be substantially cutting down on light trespass and the light pollution in general, because the light would be going where it's needed instead of blasting you in the face, actually making the scenario less safe. And then the photographs down below, they're taking in a college campus, I know, where there had been some problems, and they installed lights because it was meant to be more safe, but they didn't really think about what they were doing, and what they actually did was create very harsh shadows in which, criminals can lurk. We've all heard the term lurking in the shadows, but if we apply lighting wrong, we've made the very shadows in which people can lurk. So better design and thought as far as the final product would have been better, as opposed to simply looking at it and maybe looking at a blueprints or a diagram of the property and saying, okay, let's put a light here, not really realizing how much of a problem it would be. Yeah, Connie can point out the person.
I think that I have to.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can see my cursor now, but yeah, you can. Okay, so right here you can see the shadow because the light has been put above the tree. So it's not an optimal design. So you've cast a shadow across the walkway, and the person that's standing right there, this little white blob you see here, is a person standing in the middle of that shadow, basically, and part of them is illuminated. But they, in this picture to the right, they have moved only about 4 feet or 1 meter in one direction, and I usually challenge people to try to find them.
Right, and it's difficult to do even to a bright screen, but the person is simply standing in the shadow that was created by this safety light, and that's a really, it's such a misnomer. Lights applied for safety, if applied wrong, is more hazardous, and that's something that's just often not perceived, because you think, okay, it must be brighter is better. Let's try to duplicate daylight. Let's try to make it daytime, because that must be safer, and it's just not the case.
Mm-hmm. And so,
excuse me, on the small image on my screen, I don't see any difference between the two bottom pictures.
Well, the person is standing. When you have this picture in front of you, the picture is a meter long by 3/4 of a meter tall. So you can see the picture a lot better than you can see it on the screen. But here's the person right here.
I can see that picture, yeah.
The person, you can't see them there because they've moved. They've moved right underneath the pole, right here.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
And so that's what's happened.
I look at the bigger picture, at the bigger poster. Yeah.
And so what? When I was talking to Pete before we started here, let me get this to stop. He mentioned that you also don't just design for the moment, but you design for years later.
Right. There has to be maintenance done and assessment of how well the lighting design is actually performing. Field validation essentially is what we're talking about. But it can't be done just simply at the end of the installation and the sign off. It has to be something that's done through time, because you have lights that are usually associated with landscaping and trees and such, and they grow. And you're going to have a change in situation where the lighting may have been appropriate when there was no foliage and trees in place, and that is a dynamic situation. It's not static, and it's going to change through the time that the installation is in place, simply through plant growth. And it needs to be reassessed, I'd say at least annually, to go out and field verify how the light is behaving with the growth of the plants. And that's something that's overlooked, and usually it's discovered, regrettably, after there's been a crime, an assault or of something, and they realized, okay, we have problems with these bushes, or the tree is now obscuring the light that was installed ostensibly for safety, and it now becomes problematic. So site maintenance with respect to safety and performance of light is essential, and it is frequently overlooked. So
in effect, if there's a number of people out there that have the kits from SPIE, which is an Illumination Engineering Society, and also from the Optical Society, and from CIE, another Illumination Engineering Society, and IDA is the also recipients of the kits, different chapters, as well as the Office of Astronomy for Development, which is part of the International Astronomical Union. So a lot of these have experts in the fields of lighting and design, and I think it would be really beneficial to the students, whoever's the recipients of these kits and doing the activities, that if a lighting expert of some sort can come into a classroom at any point, boy, the kids would benefit so much, because they could get into a situation where they're talking about lighting design and what is optimal and what the future holds in terms of lighting design, and in effect when they're adults. So, I mean, what are the solutions to these different issues that we're facing for safety and related things? I think that would be just an incredible topic.
It's also very obvious that doing these field trips where I'm certainly wherever these instructions are being made, that they can find locales where there'd be new lighting and an older installation, and have them compare and figure what is what is going on. Does does the place in fact need to have maintenance? And I think they'll also find out that there'll be many lights that have burned out, and oops, they haven't been properly maintained. So quite often the older installations have more problems than you'd really believe. But when you start going out and assessing it, and you kind of look with the learned eye as far as discovering what's going on in a situation, as I call it, the curse. Everywhere you go, you start looking at lights, and it's just you can't escape it. But it's a very important things for the students to see and discover for themselves. And it's all it has to do is just be brought to their attention, and they're going to go, "Oh my gosh, look, they're right. I never thought of that before." And that's kind of the whole point of this entire kit is, "Oh, I never thought of that before, and let's get past that and improve the world."
Yeah. No small task there.
No.
But it's not unreasonable, and it's actually kind of simple in some ways.
It is. Yeah. It's surprisingly simple. It just has to be, "Oh, I never thought of that." And we see that for our discipline, but for learning about it at the age that they are, the target audience, this is the time to do it. It really is a far better way to say, "I learned about this, and I'm going to incorporate it in what I'm going to do in the future," instead of trying to go backwards from somebody later in the years, and they say, "Oh, that can't be the way. I'm used to some other method." So trained, and it's demonstrated to them so conspicuously in this program that we can't help but win.
Thank you. Yeah. That's what we're trying to do is give information to kids so that when they're adults and they can make choices, they can hopefully make a more
informed choices.
Informed choice. Yes, that's right.
Right.
Okay. One thing I wanted to bring to your attention is that we have two things in what we call the showcase and the showcase app. So if you probably what's going on right now, if anyone's viewing, you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen, there is things flipping by, almost like little mini advertisements. And one of them is actually on the light pollution and safety video that Maddie stars in. And so that gives you the website where you can find, or the YouTube site that you can find the video. And it really is instructive, and it's less than 9 minutes long, and it tells you everything you need to know with which to do the activity. It's for the teacher. It's actually for the instructor, not really designed for the student. But it does tell the instructor all that he or she needs to know to do the activity. So I thought you might want to take a peek at that. And that's also obtainable through our website on the activity, and that's the next thing that's on the showcase. And just to let you know that, just in case you don't see that little ad, quote unquote, to the side of your screen, the website is noao.edu/education/QLT-kit.php. So QLT stands for Quality Lighting Teaching Kit. And that's it. So look for those two things on the side of your screen, and they should help you if you have any desire to use the kit or the activities. And as far as that's concerned, if you don't have a kit, you're welcome to replicate the kit. Everything is on the web page in terms of the kit inventory, where we got this stuff, how much the stuff costs, each little component. But just please remember to give credit to the National Optical Astronomy Observatory if you would. You'd be very amenable and appreciative of that. And so that's the sales pitch for the kit. And let me see. I'm going to just check the Q&A just to make sure. Case. Okay. We have no questions at the moment. But Nurali, what are your thoughts of everything?
One of our tasks, which we'll have to do, is to translate the questionnaires into our local language, into Kiswahili.
Oh my goodness! Really?
Yeah, I think we want them to really understand what the question is and to be able to answer in a language that they're comfortable with. So, and then we did that last time also, and we translated the questionnaire, and then we also retranslated also the answers also. So I think with the younger kids, we will have to do that definitely.
So, Nurli, just to make sure I understand, do you want to translate just the surveys or the materials?
No. Just the surveys.
Okay.
Because the teaching will be done. I mean, the instructions, the instructor knows how to handle them, and they will be talking with them in a comfortable language. So that is not the problem, and they'll be communicating. But the presentation may, I don't know. I'm also trying to teach them, ask them to teach them how to make a poster, for example, because they may not be able to use a computer, so they will have to maybe write on a manila sheet, and then to paste some pictures and some cutouts or whatever. So it is a kind of a training thing, and I'm taking it as a learning exercise for everything, not only lighting. So it's always useful for us.
Well, if I can give you any of the files you need in Word doc format if you'd like. So just let me know.
Yeah.
And if you do want to translate anything, though, it's we have those files as well in the original form.
In the long run, I mean, because if it's something that will be that will get the attention of the powers, the government or someone, we may want to take this across to other schools and to make it a bit wider also. So let's hope that we make an impact. That's all. That's all our aim is at the moment.
Excellent. I mean, there are a number of, for instance, one of the first things they can do. There's a sheet, 5 sheets with questions that that help them get started. It's under the problems, under the issues poster, part of problem solving, problem-based learning. And if you want to translate those questions and they could write down on papers, that's a good place to start.
Yeah. Can you please give me the link where I can get those directly?
That's on our webpage.
Yeah, no doubt. But I mean, if you can just pick up the link of whatever you are thinking about, and so that I can get it straight rather than just searching and missing the points. Please, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Okay, I'm writing a note.
Please. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Any other words of wisdom that you can think of?
Pretty much covered it.
You did cover it pretty precisely. Nurli, do you have any other questions for our guest?
Well, for now, I think I'm okay. I mean, there's issues about the lighting and how it is related to visual sort of feeling. But I think it is subjective, and we all have to decide. We have our differences, but there is something which we can call normal, I think.
Yep. Yeah, perception is an amazing thing.
Oh yes, it drives it all.
Okay, well, we're coming up on 3/4 of the hour, so we're doing quite well in that regard. I wanted to ask Maddie if she had anything further to add to all this. Have we forgotten anything, Maddie?
I don't think so. The only thing I can think of is if you want to look up the standard lighting levels for your own country, that might be something that you might want to do, just because the ones that we have are for the US. So.
Well, I mean, that means each country will have its own. I mean, I don't think Tanzania we have done that, but maybe I can look that up and tell our standards authority to produce some lighting standards. Then I think that might be useful to do.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so yeah, this is an activity where you can actually make it your own. Nothing's set in stone with this activity. It's fairly open-ended on purpose to let the students explore. So hopefully that's okay. I know some teachers don't like to teach that way, but research has shown that that's actually one of the better ways to teach, because the kids really absorb more. They find they want to take more ownership over what they're doing, and they end up then learning more. So
there's something that I can add after seeing the meter that's being supplied with the kit. It's something that the kids can discover, and that is talking about perception, is how bright something appears under different sources of light. That in itself is going to be real important. People will notice that with LEDs or the metal halide type light, that we call white light, even though it might measure as being 1 foot candle, it can appear much brighter than other sources, particularly compared to high pressure sodium or low pressure sodium, if that is in fact the lighting source that they're measuring. And they can question the standards that are written, because in many cases the standards, they don't take into account the actual source and the type of wavelength that's coming from it and how our eyes perceive this brightness. I know I did measurements out in a parking lot nearby where I measured some low pressure sodium lights, which are the ones that's beloved by the astronomy community, and it looked dim. You know, I was like, wow, I'm kind of surprised. Are the lights burning out? What's going on? And I measured 5 foot candles.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and 5 foot candles under a white source would be blinding. It'd be so much more.
Oh.
Now, if you compare what was the standard written for, they often don't say what the source is. And it's sort of a contentious thing that's going on within the IES. They don't want to consider source. The CIE is kind of reluctant in saying there can be 1 zone difference depending on the source. But with the new technology, I think the students would come by and say, I'm measuring, 15 lux here and it looks plenty bright, whereas 15 lux over under this high pressure sodium doesn't look nearly as such. So they can start investigating that and maybe question the developments of the standards, because that is a kind of very important situation. We're going to have LEDs as kind of being the source that we're going to be living with probably for the next few decades. And if the standards are written to a source that was at a low low perceptive capabilities with our eyes, that's something that needs to be rewritten and it needs to be addressed. And source matters, and it's not something that you're going to see in the standards.
Is it known whether our eyes are more sensitive to more sensitive to different frequencies?
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
Within the visible spectrum, certain frequencies we will feel them to be more brighter than feeling or perception-wise.
Absolutely, and that's the sources in the past had been limited, and now with LEDs, they're highly tunable. You can tune the frequency. There needs to be some more research done, at least when it comes to making up standards, recommended practices, where the source does matter and it needs to be incorporated into the standards. And that's something the students can directly measure and get their impressions and their feelings about the perception of what they're seeing. So different sources and how bright it is and how you feel about it. Very, very important. That little meter can do a lot.
Quite. I think I can say that this can be an interesting study for different people. Different types of studies we can encourage.
And even astronomy, if that thing can measure down into the the moonlight lux levels, turn it into a nighttime operation. How bright is a quarter moon? How bright is a full moon in winter compared to in summer if it's at a different latitude? You can see these things change. When does at what level of illuminance does the eye switch from scotopic to photopic? There's a point where suddenly you can see color under moonlight. When does that happen? Yeah. So it's something that
Is the biology known? Is the physiology or the mechanism?
It's about 0.2 foot candle or 0.02 foot candles or 0.2 lux is where you kind of see the switch from scotopic to photopic. Yeah, and if you have a really bright, full moon right at opposition, so you don't have any of the opposition effect. I've measured 0.05 of a foot candle. And my word, it was just so bright, and all the colors were vivid. My orange tree looked great, and it was really quite something. But you know, if you look in print and they'll say how bright is the full moon, I've seen it anywhere written from 2 to 4, 0.2 to 0.4 lux, and I measured something different. So
wow.
you know, you'd have to just another application in practice that they can do with this wonderful meter that's provided.
Great.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Thank you so much. All right. Well, this is good. Thank you. I'm trying to think if there are any other resources to show you, and I think we've done most of the resources that are necessary for this particular activity. But what I do want to say is that we do have only 2 more Google Plus Hangouts, and they're both on the energy activity, which is the last of our 6 activities. And that'll take place again on, goodness gracious, I think it's the 2nd of August, which is Tuesday for people that are east of 1 hour Greenwich Mean Time. But for people that are more than or less than 1 hour west of Greenwich Mean Time, it's going to be Monday evening. So the 1st of August. So the 2nd of August for most people that are 1 hour and beyond Greenwich Mean Time. And that's on Tuesday, August 2nd. And then we normally do have it on Thursday, and that would be August 4th. But the star of our show, Elliot, who is the star of the Quality Lighting Teacher Kit video on energy, he can't make it till Friday. So it'll be Tuesday and Friday next week, the 2nd of August and the 5th of August, to tell you. So perhaps if we're lucky, we can get Pete back for the last one on August 5th.
I believe I can. I'll pencil it in.
Well, thank you. Okay, that'd be wonderful. And so Pete will be our guest of honor.
So for us, it will be Friday rather than Thursday, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It will be. Yeah. So for those, Jiwaji is correct. For the what usually is Thursday, but will be Friday next week. That is mostly timed for the people that are in Europe and Africa and the Americas. And then the one that's on Tuesday is timed at 1 hour GMT to be amenable to those people who are in Australia and Asia and the Americas. So that's the way we've designed it. But thank you, everybody. We have gone through most all the activities, and we're just coming up on our last couple. And hopefully that we have been able to be helpful in how to use the activities more to your benefit. And until next week, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Jiwaji, for joining us again. So
thank you very much, also.
And thank you very, very much to Pete from IDA joining us.
My pleasure.
And just to iterate or reiterate, the best site in the world for information and the best organization, in my estimation, for anything to do with dark skies and light pollution reduction and mitigation and all the advice in the world that can be helpful to you is the International Dark Sky Association's website at darksky.org, and all the people and the staff that work therein. So they're the experts. And then once again, I want to thank Maddie, who has been very, very helpful in many regards, especially as the star of the video on light pollution. Safety. Light pollution and safety. Thank you very much. Okay. Take care, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Next week.
Next week.